Welcome back to SuperString. In this video today I will show you a spine-chiller film from 1979 based on a genuine story named Escape from Alcatraz. Spoilers cautioning, watch out and fare thee well. In 1960, Frank Morris, an exceptionally smart criminal that has previously escaped from different facilities, is taken to the greatest security prison on Alcatraz Island. It's a seriously unique prison from the normal ones. There are no decent direct programs, conveying news isn't allowed, information on the outside world is just everything guards might say to you. Each detainee is restricted alone, visitors must be investigated by the FBI, and keeping in mind that they in all actuality do have the choice to work, an honor must be procured. Each day there is also a prisoner count. During his first breakfast there, Frank makes friends with Litmus, a capricious man that likes to ask others for additional food and keeps a mouse as a secret pet that he carries wherever with him. Frank also can't resist the urge to see that a gigantic man known as Wolf keeps checking out at him and making undermining gestures. Subsequently, he's taken to see the superintendent, who explains the rules Frank must comply and asks for the names he might need to approve as visitors, yet Frank has no one in his life, not even family. The superintendent lets him go with one advance notice. No one has at any point escaped from Alcatraz, and no one at any point will. This experience doesn't turn out to be totally useless though. When the superintendent isn't looking, Frank steals one of his nail clippers, which he later hides inside the Bible in his cell. Whenever the opportunity arrives for his first shower, Frank is drawn nearer by Wolf, who claims Frank will be his new troublemaker. Since obviously he won't take a no for an answer, Frank reacts by punching him several times and stuffing his mouth with a bar of soap. Afterward, Frank is sent to help at the library, and there he meets English, an individual of color that is serving 2 life sentences. A decade prior, he killed 2 men in self-defense, yet since they were white, they trusted their lies over his story. Since prisoners aren't permitted in the library, Frank's obligation today is to circumvent the cells with a truck and proposition magazines and books to those who need them. While having his break in the yard, Frank meets Doc, an older prisoner that spends his time painting. He's unbelievably skilled, and the subjects of his paintings go from himself to the superintendent. Every one of his portraits incorporate a chrysanthemum bloom as well. He also expresses stress for Frank's life after he has made a foe out of Wolf. Thereafter, Frank goes to stop briefly to talk with English, who tells him every one of the details he knows about the prison's enemy of escape measures. Men that figured out how to leave their cells, which is now an amazingly troublesome task, were shot by the guards in the watchtowers. What's more, regardless of whether you somehow had the option to successfully leave the structure, there's still the issue of Alcatraz being an island. There's a mile's swim to land, and the water is freezing. Some days after the fact, while visiting with Litmus in the yard, he mentions that there are ventilation shafts on top of their square. The main stunt would track down the method for getting up there. In any case, the evening suddenly takes a nasty turn when Wolf comes after Frank with a blade, which he manages to evade just in time thanks to an advance notice from Doc. The 2 men get into a battle that the guards rush to separate, and both Wolf and Frank are taken to solitary constrainment because the superintendent doesn't mind at all, assuming Frank has acted in self-defense. A battle is a battle. Those special cells are also known as the opening because you're stuck there with no light or human contact. The main visit Frank gets is from a gatekeeper that uses a hose to spray him with cold water under the excuse that he shouldn't stink up the cell. Frank is released a few days after the fact, while Wolf is kept in the opening longer for having started the battle and used a blade. His suspicions deteriorate when he drops his implement, and the noise doesn't make Frank even stir. Yet when he comes closer to the cell to look at the head, Frank has returned to bed, it being found to keep away from the faker. The following day, he tells his friends what he's found and checks on their progress. The brothers are almost done, however Charlie has fallen behind. Sometime thereafter, Frank and John get into the utility passageway so that they conceal the raincoats they've stolen from the dress store and look at the ventilation shaft. Since he has John giving him a boost, Frank can arrive at it and investigate, which makes him understand they'll require some serious tools to get it open. They also make note of the power plug on the divider. Next time they go to band practice, Frank asks Litmus to get him an extension string and a drill out of the shop he's accountable for, an activity he could be sent to the opening for. Litmus accepts in the wake of being promised each dessert of Frank's from this point forward. Frank also takes the opportunity to steal a small desk fan that he sneaks inside his accordion case and manages to pull off by fooling the watchman into checking Charlie's case instead. When they have every one of the tools, including a penlight they steal from Doc, Frank, and John return to the utility passage to get to work. Always keeping an out for any passing gatekeeper, they use a line John tears crazy to break the bars that safeguard the shaft opening. Then Frank climbs inside and, using the drill he's made with the tip litmus got him and the fan, he takes off the screws on the metal plates that concealment the passageway. Numerous months have passed since Frank's appearance to Alcatraz, and the gathering is at last prepared to escape. Charlie is concerned because his phony grill keeps going to pieces. However, John confirms the pontoon will be prepared next Tuesday, so Frank decides they'll be going through the arrangement on Tuesday night. One morning, during breakfast, Frank takes out the chrysanthemum Doc had passed on him to water it. Litmus is pleasantly surprised to see this is because it brings him memories of when he and Doc established those flowers together, yet the superintendent has something else altogether. The chrysanthemum reminds him of the paintings, so he comes by the table and crushes it, asserting it's against the regulations. This enrages Litmus, who tries to hop on him, yet instead he passes out from a coronary episode. After this experience, the superintendent gets suspicious of Frank, so he orders an inspection of his cell. They see is the same old thing, and the phony grill manages to deceive them. However, the superintendent is still stressed, so he orders a watchman to transfer Frank to another cell. The desk work required will require a few days, so the transfer will be done on Tuesday morning. The following day, the gathering finds out Wolf has been brought back from the opening and swears he'll kill Frank as soon as he gets the open door, so Frank decides they'll escape this evening instead of Tuesday. Wolf does attempt to make him during their midday break in the yard, yet English intercepts him and drags him to meet his posse, suggesting they'll thump him for having a go at anything. Whenever dusks, it's at long last time for the gathering to get rolling. Frank and the Anglins successfully stunt the guards with their dummies and enter the utility passageway, yet Charlie loses fortitude and stays in his cell, crying. Conveying the pontoon and Litmus's mouse with them, the threesome climbs up the ventilation shaft and makes it to the rooftop, where they cautiously sneak around by watching out for the development of the searchlights to avoid them. Yet again they figure out how to cross the rooftop and observe a pipeline against the side divider that they use to descend and arrive at the yard, where they are mindful so as to move around while keeping away from the lights until they arrive at the fence. In the interim, Charlie has altered his perspective and gone through the opening as well. In any case, when he reaches the ventilation shaft, he can't arrive at this is because he doesn't have his friends to give him a boost, so he returns to his cell to spend the rest of the late evening sulking over the missed and open door. Back to Frank and the Anglins, they move over the spiked metal perimeter, using determined jumps to try not to get injured, and presently they are authoritatively out of the structure, so they easily run towards the shoreline of the island. There, they blow up the pontoon and hop on the water, while gripping to it and using their legs as their pushing power to swim away into opportunity. The next morning, the guards figure out they're gone as soon as they check their cells, and a massive search of the prison and the whole island ensues. They discover some of the inmates' personal effects drifting in the Narrows, which makes the superintendent accept they've suffocated because they could never abandon these things, yet one of the guards points out it could be in every way a bait to make them believe they're dead. The superintendent also finds a chrysanthemum on a stone, and since these flowers aren't local to the island, it must mean Frank left it there as a message. The fugitives' bodies are rarely found, and the prison of Alcatraz is shut during a time later.